This presentation is about my trip to Kenya and Tanzania with Road Scholar recently. I'm going to talk about how I got there, the places and things we saw, and last but not least, I'll show you some of the animals. Here's a map of Africa to help those of you who don't remember where everything is. Kenya and Tanzania are in East Africa and the location of a lot of the amazing wildlife. Here's a trip that's planned showing key places where we stayed, starting in Nairobi at 1. And you'll see as we go along, we're heading in this big route in a big circle that takes us from Kenya into Tanzania and back. I started off on Emirates with points. I was able to sit in this wonderful lay-flat seat with 3 different displays to access the entertainment system. This flight heads out from San Francisco over the North Pole, and then taking this great circle route, it then goes across Tehran within 240 miles of Tehran. Emirates put me in this Marriott hotel, very nice, and had a wonderful view of the city. Had a chance to wander around at night, see some of the sights of Dubai. And the next morning he picked me up and flew me from Dubai to Nairobi, where the adventure began. We began in the Eco Hotel, very close to the International Airport, and later we finished here as well, where it's close to the Wilson Airport. We began with a trip to a museum, the Nairobi National Museum. As you can see, we went there on the same day as lots of students. They taught us about the history and actually the beginnings of man, because we will see later that we saw some of that. And they even had a snake museum. Here you're seeing the black mamba, which isn't black. It's only black inside of its mouth. Of course, you don't want to wander too much into it. Our next stop was at Giraffe Center, where they're trying to restore the Rothschild giraffe. Most of the giraffes in Kenya and Tanzania are the Maasai giraffes. Your fellow traveler Phil is getting to feed one of the Rothschild giraffes, as did I. They breed them here, and when they're 2 to 3 years old, as you can see here is a 2-week-old giraffe hiding behind mama, they transport them back into the wild. Any later than that, they'd be too tall to transport by truck. We went next to this Women's Empowerment Center, where women from abused marriages and difficult times are taught some craft skills and are given a place to live. From there, we drove onward towards Amboseli, through some really poor towns. But as they pointed out, these may be poor, but people are happy. Here I am with Alice, fellow traveler, and 2 of our drivers. And we're headed off to Amboseli National Park, where we're going to stay at Kilima Safari Camp. This is the lobby of a Kilima Safari Camp, and it's right on the edge of the park. The structures have canvas on the side, but a solid floor, and actually are pretty nice inside. And right up to the edge of the park, the elephants will come. There's actually an electric wire to keep them out, but many animals wander right onto the grounds of the Kilima Safari Park. It's quite impressive to be able to see them right in your backyard. Even the starlings here, this superb starling is incredibly colorful in the tree. We can see zebras nearby. And if you look closely, this is an oxpecker bird that's eating the bugs right off of the tail of the zebra. You're going to see lots of these Landcruisers here. It's really rough roads, so we're able to get up close to giraffes and every other manner of animal. And it's right at the base of Mount Kilimanjaro. You can see a giraffe in the foreground. There's lots of zebras and many other animals to be seen in this area. Here's a water buck. It's one of many animals that I saw on this trip. The Maasai are able to take their cows, and they have lots of cows. Their wealth is measured by the number of cows. They're allowed to wander with them everywhere. You'll see them crossing roads and in the park sometimes. Here we are, a couple giraffe and a couple zebra. This, by the way, is called a secretary bird. It catches snakes and bugs and has a rather interesting way of walking. It struts about and is quite entertaining to watch. You don't see them everywhere, but we saw quite a few here in Amboseli Park. I thought a video would show it to you just a little bit better. And yes, a Thompson gazelle. Here is a Hartlob's bustard. One of the ugly five is the wildebeest. The migration moved a little faster this year, and we were hoping to catch up with them a little bit more at the end of our trip when we're back in the Masai Mara. Here, they're mostly famous for elephants. We even saw some of the ostriches, some water birds like the black-winged stilt. This one is a glassy ibis. This is a blacksmith lapwing. Many different people all gathered together trying to see the animals all at once. Sometimes your best clue about finding interesting is to see a cluster of these Landcruisers. 98% of the vehicles are there. This is an African jacana. The elephants like to get into deep water, and often you can see a water line on them. Here, an African spoonbill, a rather interesting looking bird, and a squacco heron. This is a long-toed lapwing. And these are Egyptian geese. We saw them here in Tanzania. Notice this element. It shows the wear from some of the fights. This is a Cape buffalo. Now, when they're alone, they can be pretty dangerous. And again, another ostrich. And as we saw the sunset, we saw these beautiful acacia trees we saw everywhere. And then we raced to the border to leave and go into Tanzania. Here you see the Maasai lady trying to sell you their trinkets. It's a little bit difficult to send them on their way. I told them in Swahili, very beautiful. I don't need any. Got a good laugh out of them. And then we went on to another place as we moved into Arusha. Here they're retraining people who have disabilities, both mental and physical. New crafts, beautiful weaving. You see jewelry being made. Here's a woman sewing something, obviously with a disability, and someone else decorating this glass vase things. And of course, it's all for sale, and I thought the prices in there were rather reasonable. We moved next to number 3, Arusha, where war crime tribunals were held. We stayed at the Arusha Planet Lodge. The Arusha Lodge was nicely landscaped. I had a beautiful room. Good place for us to stay. Next, we went to Mosquito River, where they grow bananas and rice. Here we're sampling banana beer, and not very good, and also banana wine, not a wine I'm going to be ordering again. But it was an interesting experience to see how these people live off of bananas and rice. Then we got a tour to see a little bit how they build their homes there and how they do business. Interestingly enough, you can make banana skins into art. The one on the bottom right I bought for my wife. I'm framing it now. This is how bananas grow. They grow upwards like that, and when they're done, they take them to market on the back of a motorcycle. Looks like a pretty tough ride to me, but that's how it's done on the banana plantation. Here we are walking along, getting a bit of a tour of how they build the homes. Homes are actually made out of blocks that come from cow manure, straw, much like the Maasai make homes. Surprisingly, even though you make a home out of cow manure, it doesn't smell. Next, we had an opportunity to experience some local foods prepared over a wood fire. These ladies explained to us that some of the foods were spicy. I never found any of them to be especially spicy. This must be the sous chef of the future. Next, we visited the Tanzanite Experience. Tour of a simulated mine and a shop, and an opportunity to buy some Tanzanite, which is more rare than diamonds at this point. This gave me a chance to buy a nice birthday present for my wife, these Tanzanite earrings. At the coffee plantation, we learned a lot about growth and preparation of coffee, starting with a roasting process done manually here, and helped a little bit by Alice here to also roast some coffee. Here Evan's helping to grind some beans. There's a song involved. You have to learn that.
Wageni wakaribishwa Tanzania yetu, hakuna matata.
And here Dave is doing the same, learning about how to grind beans. This is a process of sifting some of the chaff out with a basket. And one final sifting step to get the beans ready. And we had an opportunity to visit one of the two types of huts, this round one made of mud. And we were shown how they make ceremonial dresses for weddings. I learned a little bit about the huts as well. They have a second type of hut with a flat roof, and in the dead of night, when the Maasai would come to steal cows, they'd walk off the edge and would get speared by the people who were defending their cows. After they prepared this ceremonial dress, not a surprise, they looked for volunteers to wear it. And here, Evan and Laura were happy to model them and show the wedding ceremony. Always children look on and try to learn about what's going on with their visitors. We drove on and entered Ngorongoro Conservation Area. The Ngorongoro crater is actually a caldera. We stayed at the Serena Safari Lodge, which is exactly on the rim of the crater, with an amazing view into the crater. The crater floor is 2,000 feet below us and has 200 square miles where there's a wide variety of animals that can be seen. At night, the Maasai entertained us. There was no lack for good desserts to be eaten and lots of fine food. It was very easy to find yourself overeating, and to avoid eating too many of these sweets, I did my best. The view from the lodge outside was more than spectacular, not only during the day, but also at night. Food was generally buffet style, lots of different choices, and we had a big table for our entire group to sit at, catch up on the day's activities. Driving from the hotel down into the caldera, I was rather surprised that the roads were actually not washboards, but had pavers like these. What an effort that must have been.
Oh, you need to take a picture?
Oh, yeah.
Outside? Okay.
Thanks to our guides, we were able to spot quite a variety of birds and animals, learned a good deal about each one of them. This is a pair of Thompson gazelles having a little friendly competition. If you listen, you can hear their horns clicking together. An auger buzzard, and the same bird in flight. Here you see flamingos and hippos in the same scene. Got a kick out of this baby hippo and heron in the background. And here a great white pelican flies over. This is called a rufous-naped lark. Here you see some wildebeests. The migration had moved on quite a bit, and we expect to see a lot more of this in the Masai Mara. This is a jackal. And this is a serval cat who just caught himself a bit of breakfast, carrying it off for a place to eat. Looking rather alert. And here in the attack mode. Look at those ears, the better for listening. Here you see about a 6-month-old lion cub. This is an old guy. This male lion obviously had been in some battles. You can see the scars on the back. It would seem he's been sent off by his pride to fend for himself. Kind of a sad story. Even the wildebeest don't seem to be afraid of him. This is an African sacred ibis, a palm nut vulture. And this silly looking animal is a hartebeest. Even the children in the school bus are amazed as they're looking out there at lions. Well, here we're going to move on and go to Olduvai Gorge. This is where the Leakeys found Lucy. It's a fascinating landscape. All the digs are happening below us. They have a nice little amphitheater, and they can explain to people exactly what they're seeing before you get a chance to go down in the gorge.
Where they find Homo sapiens, Middle and later Stone Age tools, very sharp tools compared to those made by Homo erectus and Homo habilis.
Here you see our Landcruisers heading down into the gorge. It's a mighty rough road, quite a bit of washboard, and as you'll see from the incidents that we have, even though Landcruisers are extremely rugged, they're susceptible to damage too. My gimbal makes the road look steady, but you can see how much the vehicle is moving up and down. This is a beating you take every day you go on a game drive.
Just to test my ability to get to altitude, essentially.
This plaque marks the spot where Mary Leakey found Lucy on July 17th of 1959. We're driving down this washboard road, and somebody going the other way told our other driver, "Hey, you better call your first driver and tell him to stop. He's got a problem." They got out and looked, and the transaxle was literally cracked in half. They called for another company vehicle. We moved our bags from one to the other and lost only half an hour. I marveled at how well Road Scholar handled this and allowed us to get here into Serengeti National Park. There I am standing by the sign. And if you think the roads are bad, would you think twice about driving over this bridge? You're now at Point 5, the Naona Moro tented camp in the Serengeti. The camp is right inside of the park. Evan from our group joined the welcoming committee. The porters carried our bags and gave us a brief introduction, telling us about the radio and whistle we'd be given. We're not allowed to walk outside at night without a Maasai guard. We saw this long-crested eagle and then learned that it takes 5 steps for a flamingo to take off from the water. Here you see a group of vehicles gathered to look at lions, and as you get in closer, you see 3 female lions guarding 9 cubs. While they may look sleepy, Mama is actually quite alert, and will get a little upset if you get too close. And like the wildebeest, the marabou stork is one of the ugly 5. Here's quite a crowd of bathing hippos and elephants, but if you think they're always calm, here you can see hippos in battle. I got a bit nervous as I saw this bull elephant walking pretty much right at us. I was glad to see he changed directions when he got really close. This is a group of banded mongooses having a snack at a termite mound. In the Serengeti are some big rocks. On top of them, you can often see lions. And if you've got a good eye, you can spot a leopard, even though only the tail and butt is showing. From the Serengeti, we moved on towards Lake Victoria's Spakey Bay, but again, we ran into trouble. The wheel literally fell off. The spline came right out of the wheel bearing. And once again, we had an issue. It only cost us half an hour. We took and crammed everybody into one of our vehicles. There's Tom, our guide, in the middle, and headed to Spakey Bay Lodge in Mwanza, Tanzania. Absolutely beautiful landscaping. Rooms were excellent, and it was exactly on Spakey Bay. Here was my room. As you can see, it's round, quite spacious inside, even with a loft. And a nice patio in the back. You could sit out there and look at the water. Here's the bar. At a wonderful restaurant, they served us great food. And we got to see lots of birds. The swamp flycatcher. Here's a little weaver. We actually had a bird tour. There's over 200 birds right there on property. And they arranged for us a canoe ride from the hotel to the nearby commercial fishing village. There's commercial fishing on Spakey Bay. They do it at night. They use these lights to attract fish and catch them in nets. Here's our 3 rowers in my boat.
And some have already gone. You see motorbike are carrying? Yeah. Yo.
There's lots of action in the morning after the catch is brought in, fish to be sorted, taken off to market. Boats need to be repaired and built. The whole community gets involved in working with the catch, from children to adults. Here's a couple boys pretty proud of one of the larger fish here. And here they're showing us the apparatus that holds the lights that floats on a little raft. The children had no fear of us. They took our hands and walked with us into town. Maybe it's because they know the visitors buy them candy. Got to see some of the sights as we walked through the village. Here, Evan and Laura, who ride motorcycle at home, had a chance to sit on one there. I always enjoy seeing the children in these villages. And they took us to visit the Medicine Man. Medicine Man is only 32 years old, has 2 wives and 2 daughters. The one on the far right is the future medicine woman. He showed us all his potions. I asked him which one can cure baldness. Unfortunately, none of them. The president of Tanzania is a woman. This is how she advertises on a bicycle. Laura joined the women to entertain us with their special dancing exhibition. And then they wrote us back. Of course, there's a song that goes with From Spakey Bay, we now have to head back from Tanzania into Kenya. Every time we cross the border, we have to get a new set of drivers, for they're only authorized for one place. We loaded up in the morning all of our baggage and headed towards the border, and I noticed the driver made a strange motion. And then, as we're going straight, look at where the wheel's pointing. Something was seriously wrong with the steering linkage. We stopped in town and again had a vehicle change. This is the Cessna single-engine turboprop. that was used to fly us into the Masai Mara. This gal actually did most of the flying on there and did a wonderful landing. They call it the Great Rift area, the Rift Valley, and you can see it right there. Here's Tom standing near the fig tree campsite where we stayed in the Masai Mara, almost on the equator and almost as high as Denver's airport at 4,900 feet. This is the dining room area of the lodge. We're staying right on the Masai River where there's lots of hippos and you hear them through the night. Tom, our guide, having a brief rest between all of his guiding activities. I'll give you a tour of what it's like to be in the dining room. We had a long table reserved for our group. And again, once again, it's a buffet and lots of choices for people with different tastes. These are black-faced monkeys entertaining us at Fig Tree Lodge. Here's a leopard. They have a habit of sleeping in trees. Amazing they don't fall out. This one looks like he's ready to pounce on something. We saw some amazing sunrises and sunsets in our time in Africa. And for the mere price of $480, you could have a ride on a balloon. You and 11 other people. Don't worry if you come down near the lions. This tractor will come retrieve you and the balloon. I'm not sure this giraffe thought too much of it. Here's something that you see with giraffes for dominance. It's called necking. They actually battle with their necks until one basically yields to the other.
Get away from me. They don't move away from each other.
And mounting is a show of dominance. Even hyenas need to get clean once in a while. A bit of an argument between two zebras. In case you think elephants' tusks always grow straight, here's an example of it not. And this is a male lion being very patient for his friend who happens to be there eating an adolescent wildebeest. Sorry if I'm grossing you out by getting too close. And whatever's left over, there's a white-backed vulture. Here we found a cheetah resting under a tree. This bird's called a hammerkop. And another ugly one, southern ground hornbill. This happens to be a male. This is a lilac-breasted roller perched on a termite mound, and here taking flight. One of the more colorful birds. And finally, when we're near the end of our adventure, our guide held a nice ceremony, served us some wine, and had a written out speech there for us. Got a good shot of us all in front of that wonderful sunset. The following morning, we had a chance to visit the Maasai village. We were greeted by the people of the village, including the chief, and they took us through various parts of what they like to show. Here they're doing one of their 4 ceremonial dances. Only the guys participate in this jumping event. The heels are not supposed to touch when they're jumping. Next to the airport for our flight back to Nairobi at the Old Kiambo. This is the waiting area. Waiting to get on a Dash 8 is how the luggage gets loaded. I worried about the weight of my bags. Didn't really matter. And then we fly all the way back to the Wilson Airport, not the International, and got transported back to the Ika Hotel. My flight home on Turkish Air flew to Istanbul, left at 3 a.m., and I got to spend some hours in the airport, but never saw Istanbul. With that, I thank you for your patience. I enjoyed showing you my slides of my trip to Africa.
Tom points the way to the golden sun. Savannah whispers where the rivers run. Baobab trees stretch to the sky so wide. Their shadows dance where the lions hide. Oh Africa, oh land of fire, drums of the earth, they lift me higher. With every beat, your soul takes flight.